In 6 weeks, the United States moved 1.6 million tons of war material halfway around the world to the Persian Gulf. A decade later, it flew over 1 million tons a year into landlocked Afghanistan. No other nation on Earth can fight, supply, and sustain war on this scale, this far from home. The question is not whether America has that power. The question is how, and what it actually costs to keep it. In 1943, American shipyards turned out Liberty ships faster than any navy could sink them. By war's end, 2,710 of these cargo vessels had left the slipways, an industrial feat unmatched before or since. At the height of production, one shipyard in Richmond, California, launched a fully loaded Liberty ship in just under 5 days. The U.S. merchant fleet delivered over 7 million tons of material to Europe and the Pacific, fueling the Allied advance from Normandy to Okinawa. The monthly output peaked at over 1 million deadweight tons, transforming the Atlantic and Pacific into supply highways that could keep entire armies moving forward. Half a century later, the scale remained, but the tempo changed. During the build-up to Desert Storm, the United States moved 2.1 million tons of equipment to Saudi Arabia in 6 months. Air Mobility Command flew over 32,000 sorties, while Sealift delivered 12 million tons more, including hundreds of preposition vehicles and ammunition containers. Ports in the Gulf processed more than 200 ships per week. Roll-on, roll-off vessels and preloaded maritime prepositioning ships cut unloading times from days to hours, allowing tanks and trucks to drive straight from ship to sand. The Gulf War's logistics choreography proved that American supply chains could surge at continental scale, even on foreign shores. 2 decades later, Afghanistan posed a harder test. Landlocked, mountainous, and hostile, it forced a shift from ocean convoys to aerial lifelines. Over 20 years, U.S. aircraft flew more than 230,000 sorties into Bagram and Kandahar, delivering fuel, ammunition, and food in a constant cycle. Ground convoys, often under fire, moved 15 million tons of supplies across some of the world's most dangerous roads. The annual cost to keep this pipeline open peaked at $85 billion, and every mile of it depended on a global web of bases, tankers, and preposition stocks. Across 3 eras, the numbers change, but the underlying logic does not. American power depends on the ability to move, land, and sustain war at a scale no rival has matched. Every American military presence abroad begins not with a landing craft or a cargo plane, but with legal paperwork. No base, airfield, or port operates in a vacuum. Each one exists because of a negotiated agreement, sometimes a formal treaty, sometimes a more flexible memorandum of understanding. These documents, hammered out in embassies and foreign ministries, define the terms of access, the rights of American personnel, and the limits of United States activity on foreign soil. The Status of Forces Agreement, known as SOFA, is the most common framework. ASOFA outlines everything from criminal jurisdiction to tax exemptions, spelling out who polices the base, who pays for infrastructure, and how disputes are resolved. Without a SOFA or similar arrangement, military presence is impossible to sustain. Access is not automatic. Even the most strategically vital locations require host nation consent. Diego Garcia, a remote atoll in the Indian Ocean, stands as one of the clearest examples. In 1965, the United Kingdom leased the island to the United States under a bilateral agreement. The lease granted the United States exclusive military use, but ultimate sovereignty remained with the British government. The original term was set for 50 years, with an option to renew for another 20. The arrangement included cost sharing for infrastructure and required regular diplomatic review. Every bomber mission launched from Diego Garcia, every supply ship docked at its pier, rests on the legal language of that lease. Similar agreements shaped the United States footprint from Germany to Qatar, from Japan to Djibouti. Some are public, others classified. All reflect a negotiation, sometimes tense, sometimes transactional, between American strategic needs and local sovereignty. The global reach of United States forces depends not just on hardware or logistics, but on the invisible architecture of law and consent. Without these foundations, the machinery of power projection would have nowhere to land, refuel, or resupply. Aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, and special operations platforms form the visible edge of American reach, each built for a different kind of war. The Nimitz and Ford-class carriers, over 1,000 feet long and displacing more than 100,000 tons, bring 70 aircraft anywhere on the Earth's oceans. A carrier strike group can deliver up to 150 air sorties per day, sustained for weeks, with the ability to launch precision strikes or enforce a no-fly zone without ever touching foreign soil. Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, each armed with over 90 vertical launch cells, patrol alongside providing missile defense and anti-submarine cover. Their Aegis radar sweeps the horizon for threats, while Tomahawk missiles offer reach deep inland. Beneath the surface, Virginia-class submarines move unseen. Each one carries dozens of cruise missiles and special operations teams able to deliver a silent first blow or gather intelligence in hostile waters. The submarine fleet rotates through every major ocean with at least 1/3 on patrol at any given moment. Expeditionary sea bases serve as floating logistics hubs, launching drones, supporting helicopters, and acting as mobile ports for special operations forces. Their modular decks can reconfigure within hours, supporting missions from mine clearing to humanitarian relief. In the air, the C-17 Globemaster III hauls 77 tons of cargo across continents, landing on runways as short as 3,500 feet. The KC-135 and KC-46 tankers form an airborne refueling chain, extending the reach of bombers and fighters by thousands of miles. ICM C-130J Commando II aircraft, flown by Air Force Special Operations, insert teams onto unlit strips or drop supplies from low altitude, often inside denied territory. Each platform is a distinct tool, some blunt, some surgical, but their true strength lies in how they move together. Carriers, destroyers, submarines, and airlift fleets operate as a single shifting network, able to mass force or disperse in hours. This blend of speed, stealth, and volume gives the United States a menu of options, visible enough to deter, unpredictable enough to surprise, and scalable to any crisis. Synchronization, not just scale, defines how American military power moves across continents. At the heart of this choreography sits U.S. Transportation Command, known as TRANSCOM. Every global deployment, from a single airlift to a division-sized surge, begins with a 4-hour window. That is the time it takes TRANSCOM to receive an operational order and generate a transportation plan that allocates aircraft, ships, and preposition stocks. This plan draws on a standing inventory of over 1.5 million tons of land-based equipment stored at forward sites in Europe, the Pacific, and the Middle East. Gear that can be issued to arriving units in hours, not days. Behind the hardware, real-time data flows, drive decision speed, Intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance platforms, ranging from high-altitude drones to satellite feeds, push imagery and targeting data to command centers with a latency of less than 5 minutes for top priority missions. The goal, set by the Joint All-Domain Command and Control Initiative, is to compress the cycle from sensor to shooter to under 5 minutes, a target met in recent live-fire exercises and confirmed by GAO audit reports. In practice, this means a Global Hawk drone can capture, transmit, and feed actionable intelligence to a joint operations center before a fighter squadron even reaches its refueling point. Transcom acts as the conductor, integrating these streams, tonnage, location, threat updates, into a single operational picture. Logistics officers coordinate with the Defense Logistics Agency and theater commands, updating manifests and rerouting flights as new intelligence arrives. The choreography is constant. Cargo ships adjust course, tankers shift refueling tracks, and C-17s are redirected mid-air, all in response to a decision network that operates at digital speed. The choreography is invisible, but the effect is unmistakable. Disparate assets act in concert, guided by a system built to turn information into movement, and movement into sustained combat power. The map offers no guarantees. Every route to conflict passes through bottlenecks of geography or politics, each one capable of stalling the world's largest military machine. The Strait of Hormuz, at its narrowest, is just 21 nautical miles across, barely enough for 2 lanes of tanker traffic in and out of the Persian Gulf. A single grounded ship, a swarm of mines, or a blockade can turn this global artery into a chokehold, threatening the fuel supply of entire continents. But not all barriers are measured in miles. In December 1995, a mass protest outside Camp Schwab on Okinawa forced the U.S. Navy to postpone a carrier flight deck certification by 48 hours. One demonstration, thousands of miles from Washington, delayed the deployment of an entire strike group. Local populations from the Persian Gulf to East Asia can halt or reshape operations with a march, a blockade, or a vote. Each flashpoint, geographic or political, injects uncertainty into every plan, reminding commanders that access can vanish overnight. Every projection of force comes with a price that extends far beyond the reach of any map. A single B-2 bomber mission, including fuel, crew, and maintenance, costs close to $30 million. The bill does not fall solely on the United States. NATO allies routinely shoulder about 30% of the cost for major upgrades to shared bases and infrastructure, but money is only part of the equation. The risk carried by those aboard tankers, cargo planes, and convoys is measured in more than dollars. In Afghanistan, the steady grind of ground resupply made every mile a potential ambush, with casualty rates for convoy personnel rising sharply during periods of heavy fighting. Behind every statistic are service members and civilians who bear the true weight of global reach. Each mission is a gamble, each sortie and shipment a reminder that the machinery of power runs on sacrifice as much as on technology. Today, over 750 United States military sites span 6 continents, an architecture unmatched in scale or reach. As rival powers modernize and alliances shift, this global machinery stands both as a shield and a signal. In an uncertain world, the ability to act everywhere shapes the balance of peace itself. In